It started with a photo. Just me, barefoot in the garden, wearing an old light blue dress. Laughing. Holding a cup of coffee, my hair a mess, but I didn't care. I'd asked Luca to take a few pictures for Instagram. He'd recently gotten into photography and was obsessed with the idea of capturing the moment. "Mom, stand right here. The light's amazing," he said, and I obeyed. That evening, scrolling through the photos, I stopped at one. It was perfect. Light, candid, real. But when I looked closer, my heart dropped. In the background, behind the trees, there were two figures. My husband and my best friend. Their hands were touching. She held him by the shirt, and he was leaning into her. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't innocent. It was something I was never supposed to see. But my son had captured it. Accidentally. Unknowingly. Without any intention, he had broken everything. I inhaled. Exhaled. Set the phone on the table, and just sat there. Because I knew there was no going back after this photo. The next morning, I got up earlier than everyone. Made coffee like nothing had happened. Every move felt heavy. Every sound in the kitchen too loud, too sharp. I watched my husband walk downstairs rumpled, wearing that old t-shirt I bought him 2 years ago. He smiled at me. "Morning, babe." Heat rushed to my face. I smiled back. I watched him like a stranger who lived in my home. 10 years of trust undone by a single shutter click. And then she arrived. Irina. My best friend since college. The one who held my hair when I was sick. Who slept over when her own life fell apart. The one I trusted with everything. Now she was standing in my kitchen, holding toast, laughing with my son like nothing had happened. I almost asked her, "So, how long have you been touching my husband when you thought I wasn't looking?" But I didn't say a word. Because I knew once I did, everything would collapse. That weekend, we had friends over for dinner. The irony. I stood in the kitchen, stirring the sauce, setting out plates, pouring wine. I smiled. I laughed. I asked if anyone wanted more salad. He sat across the table, telling a story I'd heard him tell a dozen times. She sat to his right. Close enough to share a glance. Close enough to make my skin crawl. Every time she reached for the bread basket, her fingers brushed his. Every time he refilled her glass, he didn't ask me if I needed more. I watched everything, every glance, every touch. Like I was watching a play where everyone knew their lines, except me. I wasn't the wife anymore. I was the host, the cook, the woman who smiled too hard. My son was sitting at the end of the table, oblivious. He asked Irina if she could help him with his science project tomorrow. She beamed. "Of course, sweetheart." And I wanted to scream. Because of course she could help. She was already good at stepping into my life. I excused myself to the bathroom. Locked the door. Leaned over the sink and tried not to cry. But I didn't cry. I stared at my reflection and thought, if I break now, I lose. So I powdered my face, fixed my lipstick, and went back out to serve dessert. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I just lay there, facing away from him, watching the numbers on the digital clock blink, one by one. 3:17. 4:06. 5:12. He snored softly beside me. I wanted to shake him awake. Ask why. Ask, when did she become more than a friend? Ask, did you ever plan to tell me, or was I supposed to find out over wine and dessert and shared glances across my garden? But I stayed silent. Because silence, I was learning, was power. That morning, I made breakfast. Again. I packed Luca's lunchbox. Again. I kissed my son goodbye at the door like I wasn't standing in the ruins of a marriage. But inside me, something had shifted. I started noticing things I used to ignore. Her toothbrush in our guest bathroom. His extra gym bag in the car, he doesn't even work out. The sudden Friday strategy meetings that ended late and left his phone face down on the nightstand. They weren't careful. They just assumed I wasn't looking. But now I was. I began writing everything down. Dates. times, phrases, not for revenge, for clarity. Because when someone gaslights you, you start to doubt your own mind. I needed to see the truth in ink. He kissed me that evening. Light, automatic. You okay? He asked, already turning away. I'm fine, I said. And I smiled. Because I wasn't okay. I was awake. A week later, she texted me. Irina. Hey, just checking in. Wanna grab lunch soon? Miss you, yellow heart. I stared at the message for a long time. I could still hear her laugh echoing in my kitchen. Still see the way her hand lingered on his back when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my gallery app. Scrolled back to that photo. The one Luca had taken. The one she didn't know existed. I stared at it like it could speak to me. Like if I zoomed in close enough, I'd find a reason. An explanation. Anything. But all I saw were hands. Her hand on his shirt. His head tilted toward hers. And I realized this was no affair born of passion. It was familiar. Practiced. Quiet. Like it had been going on for a while. That changed everything. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. I backed the photo up to a private folder. Then printed a copy and slid it into a blank envelope. Not to mail. Not yet. But to remind myself that I wasn't imagining it. That I wasn't crazy. That night, he came home late. Said he got caught up at the office. I nodded. Want me to heat up dinner? I asked sweetly. He kissed my forehead. You're too good to me. And I smiled again. Because soon, he'd find out just how good I could be. People think betrayal breaks you. That it crushes you, hollows you out. And maybe at first it does. But then, something else happens. Something colder. Sharper. You stop bleeding. You start calculating. I began to study them. Every pattern. Every lie. She started coming by more often, always with some excuse. Dropping off soup. Asking to borrow books she never returned. She'd sit on my couch and compliment my curtains like she wasn't sleeping with my husband. And I smiled. I asked questions. How's work? Still seeing that guy from accounting? Her eyes would flicker. She'd hesitate. I could tell she hated lying to me, but not enough to stop. One afternoon, while she chatted in the kitchen, I opened her bag, by mistake. Saw his cologne in the side pocket. She left it there on purpose. I'm sure of it. Like she wanted me to know, but didn't want to be the one to say it. I didn't confront her. Instead, I cooked her favorite pasta. Poured her another glass of wine. Because I wasn't done yet. I had started reading legal blogs. Watched YouTube channels about emotional affairs and asset tracing. Opened a new bank account in my maiden name. And I began writing. Not just dates and lies, but memories. Everything good they'd ever ruined. Because when I leave, I'm not walking out empty-handed. I'm walking out armed. I waited for the right day. Not a dramatic moment. Not some explosive reveal. Just a Tuesday. He came home with grocery bags, asked if I could help him unload. I did. We made dinner. Talked about Luca's grades. Everything felt normal. That night, after Luca went to bed, I handed him an envelope. Inside, one photograph. The one my son had taken. The one where everything was visible. He looked at it. His face drained of color. He didn't speak. I didn't need him to. I'm not here to scream, I said. I'm not even here to ask why. He finally opened his mouth, but I stopped him with a raised hand. You had choices. You made them. I stood. I'm making mine. I didn't pack bags that night. I didn't need to storm out. Because power isn't loud. Power is calm, clear, prepared. I had my documents, my finances, my facts. I'd already spoken to a lawyer. I kissed my son on the forehead before I went to sleep. And the next morning, I walked out of the house that once held my life. But this time, I wasn't leaving broken. I was leaving free.